Well, it is 2026, and it's time, I thought, for another studio update video. I don't think I've done one since 2024, and a lot has changed and morphed over that time. So I thought it'd be a good moment here in the beginning of a new year to sort of talk about the studio, and not only the studio, but my project plans for this year, and maybe a quick recap of last year. So let's start with this. New room. The studio is in a new room. It's in the upstairs bedroom of our house now. I've got my bookshelves over here, and it's nice, chill space. I really like it. You can see all of my guitars are now hanging on the wall. Everything's easily reachable. Let me just grab. The rest of the studio is the same. Often when you're watching a video, like a live performance video, you don't get to see that part of the studio. So you can see I've got my, how do we do this? There it is, GoPro camera right there, and then my microphone right there. And now I've got it set up so I can just put my cell phone in if I want to do a quick video about something, because I've been recording a bit through my cell phone directly. And all of my studio gear is happily hanging out there now. And I thought I'd do a quick update video about where I'm at. So studio is all still the same, basically all still the same gear that I'm using, but we're going to talk about that. Just moved into a new room, and it's nice and cozy up here, and I like it. And I think the sound's a little better up here anyway. And sorry if I'm looking down a little bit. I've got my tablet because I have so much that I want to talk about that I've had to make some notes here. So yeah, studio's in a new room. Check first thing off the notes. Way to go. Workflow updates. So I have a bunch of gear, and I've kind of always struggled with like how. And look, when I say I got a bunch of gear, I watch a lot of YouTubers, music YouTubers, and when I say I have a lot of gear, what I mean is I don't really have a lot of gear. A lot of people have a lot of gear, and I don't have that much. Um, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the workflow and how I'm using the few pieces of gear I've got. I would say the main type of music I make, or the most time I spend on music is playing the guitar and singing. The two things like that. Most of my songs I've written throughout my past have been like singer-songwriter stuff, just guitar, vocals. That's it, nice and simple. So I've got my two acoustic guitars over here, and I've got my two electric guitars over there, but really my Gretsch is my main guitar right now, or my Taylor GS Mini are the two guitars I play the most right now. Um, in that workflow, I've got my two guitars, and right now I'm using the Electro Harmonix 1440 looper. So it's a stereo looper with MIDI, which we'll talk about in a second. And right there, so I've got my HX Stomp and my SP404, and they both run into the two stereo channels of the 1440 looper. And basically, the HX Stomp is my effects processor for my guitar. And then the SP404, when I'm using the looper, the SP404 has all kinds of percussion elements on it that I can hit in, like percussion samples. I have some instrument samples that I can play chromatically. But that's sort of my partner. So anything outside of guitar that I want to put into a loop comes through the SP404 sampler. And up top, you can see the little white pedal up there. That is the Electro Harmonix Bass 9, and it's a bass simulator, if you will. So it runs into the effects loop of my HX Stomp, and when I click it on, it gives me a bass emulator, right? So it turns my guitar into a bass. So if I'm making a loop, I can click that on, and then I have a whole bunch of different bass sounds I can select from. And then I can lay down a bass line. I can turn that loop off, like the effects loop off, and then go back into the guitar. But really, that's all I use the Bass 9 for, is kind of like bass sounds when I'm doing live looping. So that's my little guitar setup, and I have the Boss, I think it's the VE20 vocal effects processor, and that runs up to my mic, and that's what I use for a little bit of reverb, a little bit of EQ on my vocals when I'm singing. Next workflow, let's say, is making electronic music, live electronic music. When I say live, like music that's performed, not stuff that's programmed in a DAW, right? a DAW. And for anybody that friend maybe that's watching this, you don't know what a DAW is. That's a digital audio workstation. So think of like the software on a computer where people do all of their mixing down of their songs, but also there's a lot of what they call VSTs or virtual instruments. And you can get a lot of like I have this year I bought a few plugins. I have a Rhodes piano, and I just love the sound of a Rhodes electric piano. And I would play it through my MIDI controller there, so that keyboard would activate a virtual instrument in my digital audio workstation. And I have a few. I have a Mini Moog that I bought this year, so a synthesizer, and I play them through that. But that wouldn't be something I would play live. So we're talking about like basically when I'm making music with my cohort Keith, also known as Captain, the other half of Stolen Captain. So Stolen Captain is a musical duo that I do with my buddy Keith, and we've put out a whole bunch of stuff. We've got an album. We've already put an EP out, and we've got an album coming out soon. We're just about done that. And super enjoyable. But imagine trying to do that on a laptop. First of all, what you're both going to be like, hey, put this on, and put like you're using one laptop. That's kind of silly. And second of all, like that's not really performing. Laying down tracks in a laptop and then pressing play and standing there. So we use the SP404s mostly for effects and a lot for vocals. Actually, it's got a lot of really crazy effects, and we've used a lot of the effects for vocals in our songs. And then right there is the MC101 Groove Box. And that little guy is basically the key to what we do together. It's got all the instruments in it. It allows us to sequence drums and bass lines and synthesizers and horns, you name it. And really, when I play live, Keith and I, he has the same setup. He's got an MC101 and an SP404. And when we play live, that's what we're doing. We have we basically have two MC101s, two SP404s, and we're playing their MIDI synced between them, and we're performing live. He's changing, like adding a bass line in, I'm adding like a melody of some kind, and we go back and forth and we piece our songs together like that. But any videos that we've made, we've performed that live, like, and it's taken us 20 tries sometimes to get through the whole song on point, switching different sounds and different loops back and forth on time together. It's fun, but it's actually a little bit tricky sometimes to get. So that's the workflow for live electronic music. I have made like electronic music on the MC101, and I made a whole album on the SP404 last year. So last year, let's address that real quick. Last year, I had two main goals. Number one, I've been writing songs, like on the guitar. I've been writing songs for 20 years, and I've got some recordings, like audio recordings of them. But I've never had any like a live performing video of any of my songs. So last year, I did a whole series called like Live from my studio, and I went through every song I've ever written, and I got a proper recording in my studio of that song. And I posted them all up my YouTube channel, and I even made a compilation of all the audio and put an album out called Live from My Studio. And that was one project. That took the whole year. Because, I work, I have a life. So really once a week, I would have a day I would set aside where I came in, focused on getting a good live performance, mixing it down, and all of that stuff. The other goal last year was to make an entire album on the SP404 sampler. Right there. Tricky. It's a lot. I love doing it. And I made an album under Earn Jr. So Earn Jr. is my electronic artist name, right? I just felt they should be separate. So I do guitar-based music under Stolen Was My Life, and then I do electronic music under Earn Jr., and then Stolen Captain is what I do with my buddy Keith. So I made an album under Earn Jr. last year called Home Cooked Samples. And basically what I did was I filled all of the banks with samples. I created the samples myself. Just hit my microphone. Sorry if there's a pop there. So I created all the samples myself. And then I took all those samples and I chopped them up, moved them around, and turned them into 9 different tracks. But the other thing I wanted to do with that album was I wanted to try my hand at different genres, because I love music in all genres. So I did 9 different genres: lo-fi, hip hop, rock, techno, like a whole every song was a different genre, a different BPM, and all built from samples that I made myself. So I made all the samples and then made the songs from the samples. And then I performed that live up at my buddy's cabin. We do a little music fest where, just some friends gather and stuff every summer, and it's called Camp Dragonfly Music Fest. And I performed the whole album start to finish live, and it was awesome. Those were two enormous projects. And not to be outdone, but this year I have a few more projects. This is the year of the EP for me. So I want to try my hand again at some different genres, and I thought the best way to do that was to create EPs. So an EP back in the day, that would be called extended play. So if you don't know, they used to put out a single song on a little tiny record called a single, and then they would extend that single at some point to make it so you could put a few extra songs on the record, and that was called an extended play. And then there was a long play, an LP, which is now known as the album. So an EP, still used, the terminology is still used, but in modern terms, that's usually around a 3-song album, right? So I figured there's 5 basic projects that I wanted to do. So why not do them as EPs? It gives me a chance to dive in and create a few different tracks in that genre and then move on to another project. And, I certainly don't have ADHD, but I have that in terms of like, I want to do something and I get in, but I couldn't do 5 different genres, full albums. It would just, I don't have that kind of time in the year. So an EP seemed more manageable. And this is the year of the DAW. So as I said, digital audio workstation. I just upgraded. I've used Studio One, PreSonus Studio One my whole life, and they just put out a new version. Fender bought the company out. Fender, the guitar manufacturer, bought out the company, and now it's Fender Studio Pro, and we're not even going to get into the controversy. People like it, don't like it, doesn't matter. That's what I'm using because I'm used to Studio One, and I've already installed it, and I've been using it, and it seems the same to me with just better, cooler features. And that's part of the reason why I bought the electric piano, the Rhodes electric piano plugin, and the Mini Moog. And I also just bought and installed Modo drums and Modo bass. And Modo bass is a real bass guitar, but now I can program it, and it sounds better than the pedal, and it sounds real. And I can program that in for some backing tracks. And the drums are an actual like drum kit. So I have lots of drum samples, but most of them are electronic drum samples. And I wanted to do like real drum. I needed a real drummer and a bass player for these projects. So I figured best way to do that is digitally because I'm a solo guy, right? I don't have time to go out and find other people to play with. It would be great, but I just don't have that kind of time in my life. And I'm more efficient if I just make stuff on my own. So I got these plugins, and my goal this year is to use the DAW exclusively to create backing tracks for each of the EPs, and then I'm going to play guitar live and sing live over it. So I'll have a backing track. There'll be a fully produced album where you wouldn't know that I'm playing all the instruments and that I've programmed everything, and then I'm going to do a live video, hopefully, for all of the albums, and I'll perform the guitar parts and the vocals live with the backing track from the computer, but I will have made the backing tracks myself. So I'm going to program all the drums, the bass, any other instruments in the song. I'm going to program that all myself and then build my own backing track to perform to. And the genres on our little list here, that's our list of genres. So here's the projects. I'm going to do a live looping EP with the tongue drums. You can see the tongue drum up here, and the tongue drum sounds amazing. I couldn't afford a hand pan, which is a really expensive version, but a tongue drum, you like tap it with your hands or little mallets, and it's got this really pleasing sort of tonality and ring to it. And I'm going to use the looping pedal with some drums, probably like percussion elements from the SP404, and guitar with that thing. So all built live, like live looping, so everything will be done in the moment, live, and then I'm going to produce an album out of that. I really got into this band called Pixel Grip recently, and somebody described them as if Nine Inch Nails and the Yeah Yeah Yeahs had a love child, it would be Pixel Grip. And female vocalist, and what I want to do is create a basically sort of like industrial new wave is what I would call them. An EP of industrial new wave, and that's why I got the Mini Moog synthesizer. It's going to be the bass line. I'm going to do guitars live and sing live, and then program drums over it. So that should be interesting. One of my favorite bands of all time is Firehose, not Firehouse, Firehose. They are an 80s post-punk skate band, and I want to try and do an album in that genre. So old 80s post-punk kind of skate rock. I'm going to do an album, like an EP, a 3-song EP, and I'll be putting the slap feature onto Moto bass, and just rocking it out with some cool drums and again guitars and vocals live. Um, I'm actually going to do. I want to do an EP with just the MC 101. I'm going to do a house album, all house music, just programmed. I might put some vocals in as well. And my plan was like I'd like to do that live and then add the vocals in live as well. So we'll see how that goes. And then the last thing is recently I figured out how to hook the Groovebox, the MC101 Groovebox, through MIDI to the looper. And basically what that means is they're time synced. So I can have elements like I can build loops and sequences on my MC101 Groovebox. So I can have all these sequences and loops going, like drum loops and like a piano loop and synthesizers, like whatever, horns, right? All these loops playing, and it will time the looper pedal to that. It'll lock them in time together. And I want to do a guitar looping EP that's built off of stuff looping, like already pre-made loops that are going in there, and then I'll start layering on guitar stuff live. So yeah, that's sort of my project plans for this year. That's a lot to get into. It's all EPs, and my buddy Keith and I, because he's new actually to using a DAW. We talked about doing a 3-song EP together exclusively through the DAW. So without our regular instrumentation, and that's a project, because the nice thing about that is like I can send him the project file and then he can work on it. So something we can do in our own time. Where Stolen Captain, we try and get together once or twice a month, twice a month. Right now we're getting together a little bit more to try and finish up our album. But we don't have a lot of time together. So we might get together and get halfway through building a track and then not see each other for 2 weeks. And doing something in a DAW, I think, will be a fun project for the two of us, because then we'll be able to do that together by sending the files back and forth, and we can work on it in our own individual time. At the same time, we're still going to get together at least twice a month and jam, do the live jam and live music creation with those. I can't see myself ever making another album with the SP404. It was fun, and if I wanted to make a single hip-hop track, I might sample stuff and chop it on there. But it's not the most efficient way. It's a very creative way, but there's a lot of limitations, and sometimes those limitations actually turn into better creativity because you have to figure workarounds. But I didn't love the workflow to make a whole album. It took a long time to make an album. And I've always been kind of against a DAW in terms of just making music on it, because it just felt so dry. But I do realize the power of being able to sequence. Like, one of the things, if you're making a song on the Groovebox, is I have to change the clip. So if I wanted like a verse and a chorus, let's say, I have to stop playing the instrument I'm playing to set up the next transition. And that's why I consider doing backing tracks in a DAW, because I'm just going to lay out the whole backing track. But now I can have a proper song laid out, verses, choruses, bridges, intros, outros, all that kind of stuff laid out. And now I just come in and play along with it. And I think that'll be a lot of fun for me, basically creating my own band to play with. And in the meantime, also getting to just learn how to use my DAW a little bit better and program drums, program bass, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, really looking forward to this. Lots coming up this year. That's the studio update. That's all the gear that I'm using. Oh, the one thing I didn't talk about is my SP drum pad, the SPD6. It's an old Roland drum pad. It's just sitting up there. I thought if I got it out and put it up there, I might use it more. My only plan I could really think of is I might run that into the looper pedal. The nice thing about that is you can pick up sticks and do things like drum rolls on it that you can't do, or at least take time to program, and it gives more of a natural feel. But it's been sitting in a closet for a while, and I just thought, hey, if I get it out and put it on my studio desk, maybe I'll be encouraged to use it a bit more this year. Anyway, that's where I'm at with my studio and all of my projects for this year and what I did last year. And I hope hopefully you'll come along for the ride in 2026 and see what I can create. All right, we'll see you in another video.